of you happen to know any of those rough-edged people? Nobody? Well, I know a couple. Reminds me, life really is all about relationships, isn't it? And just listening to that beautiful song and how blessed we are, it reminded me of a little story of how life is all about relationships, and each one of us, rough and pointed and sharp, gets put into a bag with other storms. It could be relationships and partnership, it could be work relationships, it could be families, and we bounce around together until we get smoothed out. Do you recognize that? It's definitely not always comfortable. It was Gandhi who said, we've spent generations looking at the other person to change first. I get it. How's it working for you? Guess what? Tag, you're it. Because this whole life is about us. You and I, at some soul level, have made an agreement. We've made an agreement that we are here to make this world a better place by being better people ourselves, by doing what it takes completely, committedly, to be the best version of ourselves. Ernest Holmes said, "You are an eternal being now on a pathway of endless unfoldment. Never less, but always more of yourself. Never less, but always more of yourself. Life is not static. It is forever dynamic, forever creating. Not something done and finished, but something alive. Wake up and be aware. There is something within you that sings the song of eternity. Listen to it." We live in this very interesting existence. We are these whole, perfect spiritual beings having this human experience. And I think sometimes we get distracted by the laws of nature. We recognize that there's a seed in everything, a seed that is a divine plan, a wholeness. And we can look at our gardens, and if we plant a seed, it knows exactly what it's going to be when you plant it. A rose knows it's going to be a rose, and a turnip knows it's going to be a turnip, and a weed knows it's going to be a weed. It knows exactly what it's going to be. A little baby, the same thing. You and me, the same thing. We have a plan in us, and each of those seeds needs to be nourished and nurtured in order for it to grow. And we see that on the physical plane. Yet we're spiritual beings first and foremost. And how much do we recognize the laws of spirit, the invisible laws, the creative and productive power of our thought and our mind? How much do we nurture and nourish that? Do we nourish that as much as we take care of our bodies and our clothes and our gardens and our things we love here, the physical things we can touch and feel with our five senses? Do we care as much for the invisible things that we carry with us forever? Do any of you love tonight? The Academy Awards. Do you love it? I saw an interview by Bradley Cooper this week, and he is one of the only 10 actors. Now, this is the 87th Academy Awards, and he's one of only 10 male actors that have been nominated for Best Actor 3 years in a row. Quite a feat for a man just turning 40. And you could tell from this interview why that's so. He said, you know, the door has to open for you. Well, we know the doors are already open for us always. in our minds. But he said the door has to be open for you. But then you have to step through it and give it all you've got. Now, he's been in Hollywood this week, you know, talking about American Sniper, and I don't know how many of you saw that. It was a tough, tough movie to watch. But I don't think I will ever be as close to understanding what goes on in the mind of a soldier. Because he said you have to become the person. You have to become the part. And boy, the rigorous training he went through to get to that place is amazing. But at the same time, he's also on Broadway playing 8 shows of The Elephant Man a week. And there is no makeup involved. He becomes this highly deformed character with a huge heart. And it showed how he becomes the character. And he said, I would be doing a disservice to my audience if I don't become that character and live it and act it and do it fully. Well, to me, it was so symbolic of life. If we don't accept the gifts that we've been given and give them fully, how is the universe going to participate with us? If we don't absolutely own all that we've been given, how can we possibly expect all of the abundance and the goodness and the joy of the universe to be ours? You know what I mean? Do you get it? We have to show up and be present and make our mistakes, be fully alive. You know, we need to do it. But I have to tell you, if you're not living fully, it's not all your fault. I should hear a few, whew, thank goodness for that. I'll just wait until we have a little comic relief on that one, because boy, oh boy, that stuff can get pretty heavy sometimes if we just wonder, well, my goodness, he can do it, but I can't. Well, you know, there's this thing called, we know there's only one mind, the mind of God, right? And we're part of that. Now, there's the conscious and creative mind of God that's continually at work, always creating. Things come and go, but that creative mind of God keeps going on and on and on, just like I read. However, there's also another part of this mind of God that's the collective consciousness that holds every thought ever thought. Whoa, that's a lot of thoughts to think. I thought my mind got full sometimes. That's a lot to hold. And I'll tell you what about that collective consciousness. It's a little bit out of balance. Somewhere in this journey of life, we started to fear God, fear life, fear, feel separate and alone. And so this scale has all this accumulated fear and not so much accumulated faith. Some of the faith is faith based in fear, which doesn't really count as much. Yeah. But all this fear here that's false and made up. But it's fear that we've inherited. Now the question, you can say to yourself, well, I didn't do it. But the question is, what are we going to do about it? Remember that agreement we made? If you stay with this fear, you're always going to be thinking of the worst case scenario. Am I looking at any of you? We've all been there. But remember, we're either attracting or repelling what we really want in life. And so if we're always thinking about the worst case scenario, what are we doing? We're attracting that and we're repelling what we want. We're attracting the things we don't. Or just wasting our time worrying about it and missing the good that's happening. So it's up to us to take this fear and transmute it, because let me tell you, thoughts are not solid. Thoughts are not static and unchanging. They're moldable. They're energy. We can change them if we do our work. Now, when I told you there's this place in us, this divine center in us that wants us to grow. And I always think of what the Talmud says. There's an angel by every grade of blast. Every grade of blast. Blade of grass, whispering, grow, grow. And it's the same for you and me. So sometimes we get in a really dense situation. Now, if we have a linear mind, we might think of our life as just a straight line, and we're standing at one end in the density of our human beingness, and at the other end of this line is the kingdom of heaven. It's beautiful and content and peaceful, and the angels are singing, and here we are going, well, how do you get there from here? We don't know, because we have an imaginary barrier here that's the limiting thoughts, part of that race-conscious thought stuff, soup, race-conscious thought soup, and part of the stuff that we've created. You know, we've perpetuated because we decided not to do anything about it. We've just owned it. And then we can't get there because we have this imaginary barrier, which is our limiting belief that we aren't enough, and we're always enough all the time. So I'm going to ask you to do a little exercise with me. Those of us that have more spiral, circular thinking, let us just put our feet on the ground and take a nice deep breath. And I want you to imagine more of life as a tunnel that we move through on this journey of smoothing ourselves out, that we move through in this process of reconditioning our minds to the greater good. This tunnel we move through as we accept and love God in its fullness instead of letting fear guide and direct us. So I want you to just feel from that place within you, that wholeness, that perfection, that divine urge, that curiosity and quest for knowledge and understanding. And stand at the end of the tunnel and look, and I want you to get a glimpse of the kingdom of God. It could be the kingdom of contentment. It could be that infinite good that is ever present. And you may just see the waterfalls and the lush valleys and the love that's shared and felt. You may hear the songs being sung. And instead of, you may see a barrier in the way that says, I can't do it, I'm not enough, I don't know how. But take a moment and feel from that place within you, the place that's more powerful than any physical experience, the place that knows with God all things are possible. And feel that courage and curiosity. And recognize when you feel the resistance of all these limiting thoughts that just like an airplane needs the resistance to gain height, to reach the height it wants to be. That's the same as us. Our resistance is there to push us to greater heights. So allow yourself to move and be in that place that moves through that tunnel and feels that divine urge and says, you know what? I'm ready. Listen as this voice says, do not be afraid. Your vision is true. Enter the tunnel and walk through. The only barrier between you and this contentment are your limiting beliefs. Do not fear the darkness. There is a lamp within you that is already lit. There is a lamp within you that's already lit. And remember, expectancy increases speed. Expectancy increases the progress you make. So if we vision, if we pray, if we affirm our good, it moves us closer and closer to living that life of peace and contentment. Expectancy speeds the progress. It makes our journey quicker and easier as we don't focus on what might happen negatively, but we look for that vision that pulls us closer to our good. Okay, enough sleeping time. Come back. So I'm going to ask you, if you came up with a belief that limited you, a thought that said, oops, there it is. Today I'm willing. Or just willing to be willing. to let go of the limiting beliefs that have kept me stuck. Now, what Jesus said is, he said, you know what? When you meet these obstacles, whether they be people or things or thoughts, when you meet these obstacles, dust off your feet. Just dust them off. Remember, we can change things. I'll help you a little bit, because what I know is right now you are perfect, whole, and complete right as you are, but we have to be at choice to live, to take full responsibility for who we are. Now, how many of you spend time yelling and screaming at your life because it's not the way you want it? Fess up! We do that because we're human. Me, it's not the way it's okay. You can yell, you can scream, you can use expletives, you can do whatever you want. But remember, you're doing it in front of a mirror. Because we're the creative energy. We decide what we're going to see, how our life is going to be. We can't expect someone else to change to make us better. It's all about you and me. Now remember, we made an agreement. And we're here to support each other on this path. So, first of all, tag "you're it." Now turn to the person next to you as a loving reminder that we are on a path of good, and just say, tag "you're it." To be the best of yourself. To be more than you've ever been before. To love yourself even more. And to love God in its fullness. We're here to remind each other to do that. And it takes practice. It takes practice. Do you get it? It takes practice. It takes loving community to support us in growing together to be our best. We don't get it from just a 20-minute message. We don't get it from just reading a little book. We have to practice, practice, practice. So are you ready to do that with me? Okay, so we're going to do a prayer together now. We're going to pray to activate this good that's already in us. And I'm going to have us, before we close, stand up and repeat the end of the prayer together. Okay? Okay, good. So let's just again untangle ourselves and be ready to receive the power and presence of infinite good that's right here, right now. Be ready to own that we have everything we need. There's nothing in this world we don't have that we need except the willingness to express it, to let it go, to see it differently, to expand our consciousness, to embrace whatever it is we know our heart's desires. Rumi said the only thing that really matters is to go in the direction that our soul directs us, to do what our soul guides us to do, to listen to that still small voice within and do and follow the intuitive guidance. We are part of this one mind of love, and this mind of love is calling us to move forward. This mind of God is calling us to love ourselves and love one another. As Jesus said in his Sermon on the Mount, he said, love your enemies. Be kind to those that persecute you. The sun shines and the rain rains on all alike. To only love those that love you, what reward is that? We are here to uplift the consciousness, to remember that every single person on this planet right here is doing the best they can, and we are here to heal that collective understanding of fear and doubt and separation and live the truth of love and kindness and oneness. We have made an agreement here in this community and the communities at large that we want to be those people. We want to be the ones that we've been waiting for. We can no longer say, hey, you change first and then I'll change. We're here to grow together in a greater understanding of the interconnectedness of this beautiful thing that we call life. It is in this moment, I know for us, that we take responsibility for who we are. We take responsibility to live our best lives. And as we take a few breaths on that, to live our best life, to take responsibility, I'm going to ask that the rest of it, that our prayer be put up on the screen. And when you feel ready, I'm going to ask you to stand up with me, with all of us, and read this, because this is about taking responsibility. Tag, we are it. I live in a world of infinite possibilities. I am always at choice. I choose to let go of all previous mistakes. I experience freedom and peace. I feel the operation of divine love and universal law in my body, my life, and my affairs. I know that I have everything I need, and everything I do is governed by love and controlled through law. I am conscious that I am one with God and one with all people, in love, in essence, and in joy. Life lies open to me, rich, full, and abundant. Read that last line again. Life lies open to me, rich, full, and abundant. And one more time. Life lies open to me, rich, full, and abundant. I support you in living that, knowing it, receiving it, accepting it, and sharing it right here and right now. And touch the person next to you and say, tag, you're it. I know you can do it. We're the ones we've been waiting for. I say thank God for each and every one of you. And so it is. Thank you, thank you, thank you.